Oh man, I'll tell you, weather shifts around here like crazy, but we're back. Another edition of 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse. And something just came over the internet that somebody alerted me to that, where did I write this down here? I wrote it down somewhere. Jeez, I'm get fucking senile. Abdulla the Butcher, at 82 years old, will be doing a meet and greet at Absolutely Intense Wrestling's Gauntlet for the Gold, May 16th in Eastlake, Ohio. Now, a lot of stuff has hit the news on this, a Cleveland station, that basically that Abby is a WWE Hall of Famer. Yeah, he is. He got a ring, and they said something about he had to sell the ring. Well, he didn't sell the ring lately. He sold the ring like maybe a year after he got it. The whole thing was that Abby never wrestled for the WWE, WWF, or WWF. But being that they had bought the WCW library, and being that he did do a stint there for a while, they had to put him in the Hall of Fame. And of course, Terry Funk was the one who inducted him, and there was an incident actually at the Hall of Fame because Abby, bless his little heart, decided to set up a gimmick table in the hotel and got kicked out of the hotel because that's a no-no with Vince. There's been some heat coming down. As far as my connection with Abby, I've met him a few times. He's always been cordial with me. Let me see. Eddie Grise, his manager in Puerto Rico, brought him into Chiller at one point, and we did an angle where I wound up on my ass on the floor looking up at him holding a pair of scissors. Of course, he figured I was clueless at this point and left me alone, and then I went to another convention where I walked up and said hi, and he looked at me and said, "You learned anything yet?" Just breaking my balls. Abby, no matter what you read, and they just had this whole thing going on now, said he started wrestling in the 70s. No, he didn't. He started wrestling in the 60s. He was from Canada. His thing was basically he was teaching martial arts to the police departments up there when somebody decided to get him into wrestling. He would tell you he is not a wrestler. He's a martial arts guy. And he started up in Canada with Stampede, and basically the only place he never wrestled, the only major arena that he never appeared in was Madison Square Garden. He's appeared all over the world. Meadowlands Arena, Nassau Coliseum, but never Madison Square Garden, which was a big regret from what I remember on his shoot interview. And I heard interviews with people about Abby, some pro, some con. It's a vicious business, and Abby protected it. Abby gave several interviews in the past that basically said, "I'm not going to expose a business that I make money in." And that's basically it. And as far as him being a bad guy, I don't know. Some people have issues with him. I know this latest thing was that basically this wrestler named Hannibal, real name Devin Nicholson, accused Abby of giving him Hep C. Well, I saw the match, and it's obvious that Abby does cut him with his razor blades. Now, whether that was agreed on prior to the match or it just happened, I don't know. But I also know that after watching Mr. Nicholson's shoot interview, which I could only get into like the first 15 minutes of a 2-disc set because right away he went off on ripping up the business. It seems that he was tight with Abby up in Canada for a while. There was another incident where I guess he let Abby break a glass coffee pot over his head, which was pretty fucked up. But I guess they were tight for a while, and then all of a sudden, this thing with Hep C came out, and he said that prevented him from getting into the WWE because he had Hep C. Okay, I'm not going to buy that for the simple reason that blood is not allowed in the WWE. You're not allowed to blade in the WWE. So there was no chance, unless it was an accident, of him getting his Hep C infected blood on anybody else. Maybe the real deal is you're just a shitty fucking wrestler and a shitty human being. And that's been exposed a bunch of times because I saw clips of him harassing Billy Jack Haynes at a convention in New Jersey. He's also been busted on multiple domestic violence charges, and last I heard he's under house arrest in his parents' house at 40-something years old. So do I believe the shit with Devin Nicholson? No, I actually don't. Because somebody I know had wrestled Abby about a month before he wrestled Nicholson. And of course, they both bled all over each other because that's what they do. And he didn't get Hep C from it. So I don't know what the real deal is. And then they're saying that Abby is illiterate. And actually, Abby might be pushing this for his own agenda. Abby's a conniver. There's no doubt about it. That's what they are in this business. And, you know, unfortunately, Devin Nicholson has a cheerleader in Superstar Billy Graham, because Superstar Billy Graham has a fucking real big hard-on for Abby for whatever reason, something that occurred early in their careers. But going back to this whole thing, Abby started in the 60s, and it was a much slimmer Abby. And he was sort of trained a little by the Sheik. And Abby wrestled all over the world. You put it in Australia, Japan, New Zealand, the Far East, all over the place. I mean, there isn't one continent that Abby probably hasn't wrestled on. And okay, at the end of the day, he's broke. Yeah, well, a lot of these guys think it's going to go on forever and ever and ever, but it doesn't. Now, do people have beefs with Abby? Obviously they do. I remember reading a story about that Angelo Mosco was going to take liberties with Abby in the ring, and he had Abby by the throat when Abby held up his hand and there was 4 razor blades taped to his fingers. That ended real quick. There was other things. Guys like Don Morocco, Tommy Rich in shoot interviews said working with Abby was like a night off. And, you know, all you do is basically you're gigging and taking bumps and shit and putting Abby over. Another guy I know personally, Madman Pondo, had a lot of matches with Abby, and he told this story about they were in Japan, it was late at night, they took the wrong subway, they were lost, and they were walking down the street, and this guy was walking up to them, and this is like in the middle of the night, and Pondo asked for directions, and this guy looked and saw Abby and started yelling, "Butcher! Butcher! Butcher!" And Pondo said it was like Fiddler on the Roof. All of a sudden, these lights went on in these apartment buildings. People were looking out. People started coming out and surrounding them because they knew Abby. Abby had been in Japan a number of times. And that deal where he fought Hulk Hogan wasn't in the WWE at that point. That was in New Japan. So Pondo says all of a sudden they're surrounded by these guys chanting, "Butcher, Butcher, Butcher." And Abby goes, "Pondo, pull out some T-shirts. We may as well make some money while we're here." And that's the way Abby was. Love him or hate him, he's an icon. He was a special attraction. He was brought in to pop territories when things were slow. He never stayed around too long. He cycled in and out of world class. Guys that managed him like J.J. Dillon and Gary Hart had nothing but good things to say about him. Of course, there was the epic feud with him and Bruiser Brody. Then unfortunately, his buddy Brody was murdered in fucking Puerto Rico, and Abby spent a lot of time in Puerto Rico feuding with Carlos Colon and Brody and others. So it's been a long career, and I sort of, you know, I feel bad that, you know, he's that down and out at the end of the day, but honestly, the man had a great run. He had a fucking restaurant in Georgia, Abdullah's House of Ribs and Chinese Food. I mean, maybe he's broke, maybe he's not. Everybody kayfabes this whole thing, but you know, I see a lot of, you know, like I said, derogatory stuff spread about him by Devin Nichols and Superstar Graham and stuff like that. And like I said, I have no personal relationship with Abby. I just know that, you know, I met him. He was cool. You know, we had an angle. I could have got fucked up by him, but he didn't because he knew I didn't know what I was doing. And we had a laugh about it later. So, you know, I still feel the guy's an icon. He didn't get his real due in the business, but like Andre the Giant, the Sheik, King Curtis, and others, he was a special attraction. He was brought in to pop business, and he did. And he, like Terry Funk said, I made a shitload of money working with him in Japan. And he had a great run. You can find a lot of his stuff on YouTube, even the Australian stuff. So I'm always a fan of the business. Always will be, of the old school stuff. And like I said, I feel bad for certain guys at the end of their careers when they just, you know, they didn't think it was going to be over and they end up, you know, broke and destitute. And I know there's a GoFundMe for Abby run by his godson, I think, which you can probably find on a GoFundMe thing. If he is down and out, I feel bad for him. And honestly, I'm going to throw something to that fund myself. Like like I said, it's just sad, for some of these guys at the end of the day that they're just broken down, from entertaining us. And hey, at 82 years old, this guy had a great run. He's been on, a couple of Tales from the Territory things, and hopefully he'll be on some more when they revamp him again. So what can I say? The guy's a legend. He's an icon, and he just didn't get his just desserts. And what can I say? I loved watching the guy. I've seen him live a few times. He's a crazy guy, but he's got a lot of respect in the business. Some people actually, really respect what he's done. Other people despise him. So what can you do? You can't please everybody. So that's our show for today. This is being taped on a Thursday. And I would say by next week, for those who are looking, I'm supposed to have my friend drop me off 20 copies of the first issue of Grindhouse Resurrection. So they'll be available next week. If anybody's looking, just, hit me up at grindhousepurgatory@gmail.com, and I'll tell you how to pay for it. So until next time, stay safe. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the flip side.